So as we were reporting earlier, oil prices jumped after the Trump administration said it's reimposing sanctions on Iran. Brent crude, the global benchmark, is now trading at $74 a barrel. Still, that is down sharply from its peak during the Iran war, when it was trading at more than $100 a barrel. Now, the recent volatility has helped spur demand for EVs in Africa. Some nations there, including Ethiopia and Rwanda, have put restrictions on gas-powered vehicles, and Kenya is planning to waive import duties on some EVs. That's good news for the electric motorbike company Spiro, which operates in 7 countries and is looking to expand Spiro. It's raised $270 million in just its latest funding round. Gagan Gupta is the founder and chairman of Spiro, and he joins us now from Dubai, where his company is based. I want to thank you for being with us. And we do want to start with where you are, right, in Dubai. Until earlier this year, a safe, predictable place to do business. The Iran crisis has put your game plan in sharper focus. Tell us how.
I think the war in the Middle East is creating the largest supply disruption in the history of the oil global markets. Africa as a continent imports about $150 billion of petroleum products every year. And that makes energy security not simply an energy issue, but an economic competitive issue. So every time the price of the oil goes up, a lot of countries' exchange rates gets impacted, which means if they're importing other things, the cost of living goes up. And at the same time, the precious foreign exchange has to spend out. So any fuel import is massively impacting the countries. And a lot of countries, as you mentioned, Kenya, Rwanda, import 100% of their fuel. So the Iran war is actually accelerating the adoption of EV. I mean, what we have seen in a market like Rwanda, where every month about 5,000 bikes are sold, now 90% of the bikes sold are electric. And Spiro sells about 90% of that. So out of 5,000 bikes being sold every month in a market like Rwanda, 4,500 bikes are being sold by Spiro, which is electric. In markets like Kenya, Uganda, we say that about 25 to 30% new motorbikes being sold are electric. So the adoption has massively increased post the Iran war.
And we're looking at some pictures of the bikes right now. I mean, you offer the Spiro as good value. It's obviously good for the planet as well. How much does an owner save? Because, from what I know, motorbikes actually don't cost that much to run in terms of how much you pay in gas. That's why people buy a motorbike in general. So how much savings is there really with an EV?
I think you're so right. Spiro bike is an economic choice. It's not a climate choice. So the cost of the electric bike of Spiro is cheaper than the cost of ICE bike, between 20 to 30% depending on the market. The cost of operations is lower. The banks are able to finance it much lower interest rate because they can trace the asset. And therefore, the overall cost of ownership is less by about 20 to 40% when compared to ICE bike, which means the driver is able to put between $1 to $2 extra every day in his pocket. And that's a massive saving that a Boda Boda rider has because of moving to EV.
In terms of this concept that you have as well, in terms of battery swapping, can you explain that to us? Because we're, of course, used to this issue of plugging in an EV.
So, when we created Spiro to give us same seamless experience as what he had before. So today, what will you do before? You had a motorbike, the Boda Boda rider will go to the petrol station, put the fuel and move on in next 2 to 3 minutes. He does not have to wait half an hour or 1 hour charging his motorbike and then waiting for missing the crucial time to pick his customers. Secondly, a lot of times in Africa, you might not have energy in the grid itself. You might not have a situation whereby when you want to charge, there's energy coming, or you might not just have the connection. Therefore, we created a swapping experience whereby basically a rider comes, he gives his old battery, and takes a fully charged battery in less than 3 minutes. He's done with. So we basically, when we created Spiro, we created that the Boda Boda rider has to get the same experience as before. And today, as a company, we are doing close to 150,000 swaps a day. And I would say that it'll be one of the biggest swapping companies globally in terms of number of swaps that we are currently doing. And I must say that today, on a month-on-month basis, we are growing by over 17%, sheerly because the adoption is increasing at a very different pace.
How do you see this, unfolding in Africa? I mean, the prospect of this actually being widespread, would you give us a percentage? I mean, if I'm someone in Africa right now looking to buy a motorbike as I need one, I mean, where do you see this going? Can you see EVs actually having a majority of the market in Africa?
So I think I'll just step back for a minute. I mean, globally, if you look back, early 17th century to 1850 century was the era of coal and, wood. Then came the era of petrol and gas. And now is the era of EV. Surely because of the competitive reasons, my expectation is that all the new sales will be upwards of 50% will be EV. So as I mentioned in Rwanda, 90% of new sales are EV. In Kenya, Uganda, it's about 25 to 30% and increasing month on month. I would expect that next year you should be expecting between 50 to 60% of new sales to be of EV, and not just in the segment of motorbikes, but you will see in trucks, you will see in other form factors. And Spiro is therefore building the entire ecosystem that enables this to be a reality.
Right. Well, we thank you. And again, we're looking with interest right now at video of that battery swapping idea. Mr. Gupta, thanks so much for being with us. Really appreciate it.